Hello everyone and welcome to BHC Studio. Today we'll be doing an unboxing and first look not of the X-H1 but the brand new X-H2S. We'll look at the accessories as well as two new lenses and we will do our first impressions. Lots of specs to go through, so let's start the video now. Actually, before we start the video, maybe you are here because you are interested in the older X-H1 or perhaps you're interested in the X Pro 3 or the X-T4, all of these considered flagship at the time that they were released. Well, today's sponsor, KEH Camera, may have these cameras in stock right now. And so thank you so much KEH for sponsoring this video. They are the original reseller of professional, collectible, and everyday gear for camera lovers everywhere since 1979. They purchase gear directly from photographers like us. We are camera nerds. They renew and resell at fair prices, and they truly become part of an endless cycle of creativity, community, and opportunity because, you know, these old cameras, if they're just sitting on the shelf, maybe you consider selling it, and maybe if you can't afford, or maybe you just tend to buy the one generation before, then maybe instead of the X-H2S, you want the X-T4, X Pro 3, or the older but still powerful X-H1. Well, KEH is a place to buy it. So at the end of the video, we'll talk about more about KEH, and we'll put some more details at the bottom in the description. So let's start the video now. Alright, so before we begin the unboxing, Fujifilm made sure that we let everyone know that this is a pre-production copy. Packaging looks like it is production ready, but the camera itself, the firmware, and so after this video I'll be doing tests and things, so it's not final production copy, and so just remember that as we go through, especially the fit and finish. It still looks very good, but there are little things as we go through, I'll let you know. But here in this box here, it tells you at least what's going to be in here. A digital camera, X-H2S of course, rechargeable battery, USB cable, AC power adapter, shoulder strap, and cable protector. And so we will basically see what is inside here. Now there's only going to be one colorway, which is the black, which was the same with the original X-H1. There is no manual for these pre-production copies, but there will be a printed version. So this is just kind of like the warranty information and things of that nature. And then inside here, we will have the camera, but let's just look at the accessories first. That'll be in this other box on this side section here. And so we will have, as mentioned, the USB-C to C connector here. And so the camera can charge in body as well as data. You can transfer data across and use it for tethering. And here is the strap, and I will show the strap to you because it is a little bit different than the X-H1. And you will see here, look at that. So it will use, so you don't see the lug, the eyelet style lugs here. So this is going to be a slotted lug for your cameras. And so Fujifilm always gives decent straps for their professional line of cameras. But as you guys know, I love my cool hipster straps. And then here are just the different connectors depending on what country you're in. And let me see here. Oh yeah, this is the AC adapter that they mentioned right here. So you just plug this into here and you just use the body. I recommend getting the dual battery charger that I bought for the X-T4, which shares the same battery as the X-H2S. And here is the cable management here, which was in the original X-H1 as well. And then we will hook this up once we have the camera unboxed. And then that's pretty much it. And so let's get into the camera. And that's it. Let's just move the box out of the way. All right, so X-H2S. Check it out. Look at that. Look at that. Now, there was no battery, so I guess what Fujifilm did was, usually the batteries is in that little side box as well, but they just put this in here probably because of pre-production firmware updates. But this is the NPW235 battery, which is the same battery that is inside the X-T4. And that's fantastic. And you can see that they have utilized, having the battery going in this way, which is where the hand grip is over here. And that's great. And here you go. Look at that. And then I will grab the X-H1. So let's just take a look at the X-H. So you can sort of see a family resemblance between these two bodies here. They both have deep grips. This is the X-H1. This is the X-H2S, nice deep grip, has that feather touch shutter, which is different than what you see on the X-T4 and the X Pro 3 with the threaded shutter release, which I like, but I also kind of got used to the X-H1's feather touch. It's more of a DSLR style, but that's kind of where you start seeing a difference here. You're starting to see the GFX100S type styling, where you have the PSAM dial and all the custom features instead of an ISO and a drive dial like the sub dial down below. No shutter speed dial and no sub dial down below here that we saw on the X-T4. And let's just take a look at this side by side with the X-T4. Weight wise, the X-H2S feels a little heavier than the X-T4, but maybe slightly lighter or about the same weight as the X-H1. It's hard to say, but you can see they both have fully articulating screens. Battery compartment, as mentioned, battery compartment, the way it goes in is different. So I think with the X-H2S, they've been able to be more efficient in terms of size. You can see that right there. So it feels nice and compact. You know, it might feel heavier than the X-T4, but I'm going to just look at it width-wise here. It actually looks like it's maybe slightly narrower than the X-T4. In terms of height, it actually looks a little bit squatter, a little shorter than the X-T4, but definitely it's thicker. Even if you minus the hand grip, it does look a little chunkier than the X-T4 over here. And here, let's just take a look at the very different styling here, X Pro 3 and the X-H2S. Rangefinder styling, more of a hybrid styling. And actually, this is a good point that Fujifilm kind of distinguished now. Billy was saying that this is considered the flagship model. Before with the X Pro 3, the XH series, the XT series, you never knew like which is the top of the line, and it seemed like they were all kind of top of the line. They all shared the same sensor, they all shared the same processor if it was of the same generation. And so it was hard to say, well, Fujifilm said this on this release, on this iteration of bodies, sensors, and processors, they're going to make a very clear distinction, and this is going to be considered utility, and this is going to be considered sort of a hybrid format, and this is the flagship model. And then the X Pro series, they call it luxury and classic design, and the XT, they actually call the XT series, the upcoming series, they call it the mid-level with classic interface. And then all the other ones, the XS10, the XS series, the XT, 30, XT40, that's the base series, and the XE series is also considered base. And so this is going to be the flagship. So let's go over some of the specs. The X-H2S body is going to be $2,500 US or $3,200 Canadian. Now things can change. We do have this a couple of weeks before launch, and so for now we were told $2,500 US. The sales embargo on this is going to be July 2022. So we're going to have to wait a little bit for this. So if you really want this camera, you have to get in your pre-orders. 26 megapixels X-Trans 5 stacked backside illuminated CMOS sensor. So that's the big difference between this and the previous generation, is that stacked sensor. It has AI adaptive autofocus with subject detection, which includes animals, birds, cars, bikes, and planes and trains. And we'll see that inside the menus. And that is because of the X Processor 5 with AI digital signal processor, which has a 1 gigahertz main processor with a 600 megahertz sub processor for the IBIS unit. And for comparison, the previous X Processor 4, which was very powerful, Fujifilm was able to put it into the GFX 100 series, and that processor was 608 megahertz. So quite a big difference. EVF, the 5.76 million dot OLED EVF up to 120 frames per second with 0.8 times magnification. So we're talking like a SL2 and Canon R3 level EVF. So it's going to be buttery smooth in here. I can't wait to start using this. And it includes a 3-inch 1.62 million dot vari-angle touchscreen LCD. And so a lot of us were wondering if they're going to stick to the older traditional 3-way articulating screen that Fujifilm had for the longest time on their XT and the XH series here, but they've decided to go this route here. 15 frames per second mechanical shutter with a maximum of 40 frames per second electronic shutter, blackout free. So that's kind of a big deal. 40 frames per second. That is class leading, and that's coming from probably that backside, that stacked sensor as well as that new processor. And IBIS in here is 7 stops, so half a stop above the XT4, and I think the X-H1 was like 5.5 stops or something like that. So you can see they are getting better as the generations come along, and they're also making it smaller as well. And this is a big change here. Let's look inside. Look at that. What do you see here? Well, there's an SD US ultra high speed type 2 slot, and then here is a CF Express type B in here. And that's where, you know, having extra throughput, you need a card that can handle that type of throughput. And so we will talk about that. And it looks like this door here comes off as well. So if you need this door off, you have it in a cage, you're pulling memory cards in and out, then this door does come off over here. So with this camera, you're getting 6K, 6.2K 30p, or up to 4K 120p, or 180 or full HD 240p, 422 10-bit, up to 720 megabits per second internal. But there are other specs. There's actually a whole list that Fujifilm gave, and I'll give some other numbers a little bit later, but that's the basic numbers here. And the 6.2K is at a 2:3 aspect ratio, so it's doing a full sensor readout, which is great. Now the cool thing they added in here is a 10-bit HEIF, which is a high efficiency image format. So if you have an iPhone, you already used to the HEIF format, which is sort of a competition to the JPEG. Either they could have made the file smaller, or they made the file size the same, but the image quality better. I think they just made the file size smaller. I will, in my full review, I will check that out. Now it has internal ProRes formats, ProRes, Blackmagic RAW via HDMI, and let's look over this side here. You can see there's quite a change in how they do the I/O here. And the first change here you'll see is it is a full size HDMI A-type connector right there. Look at that. And that's awesome. And then next to here you have the microphone input, and you have the headphone jack finally. So you have them both there. No need for adapters or anything like that. And what you kind of notice here is that if you are vlogging and you have this screen forward here like this, you could see here that the microphone input doesn't impede this front screen here. Now, if you're using the other connectors, or if you're using HDMI, you can kind of tuck it up on the top here, but some of these other connectors like power will get in the front. But at least if you're just vlogging, you can just plug it up here and it will clear the screen. And then let's open this down here. You have USB Type-C, and that is 3.1 Gen 1 Type 2. So you're getting 10 gigabits per second throughput versus the previous 5 and the XT4. And we do have right up here on the other side a 2.5 millimeter remote jack, as well as you can use this on gimbal. So it's on the correct side. It's on the grip side over here. And so those are the main specs here. Physical features, it's a hybrid body, deep grip, pro build quality, 500K shutter durability on here. So this is meant for professional use. And you'll also notice right here, the joystick is a lot like that's in the GFX 100S and the 50S. I'm happy that it's bigger this way here, but I do find it's it feels a little sharp, but it is a new 8-way joystick, and we'll see how I like using it. And as I mentioned before, feather touch shutter button here, and we have this backlit sub monitor. So if you turn this on here, nothing's happening. Let's just see here. Okay, there you go. So it's just at the very first menu here. There you go. So you can see that right there, and you have that light button right here. So you can make sure, so you got all your readings up here, but with this, you do lose your shutter speed dial. Now let's look at the buttons here. We have the dedicated ISO button. We also have a white balance button, unlabeled FN button here. And look at that, guys. Thank you so much, D-pad. That is awesome. Has an oversized AF on button here, which is finally in the right spot, and there's no funny buttons over here, the Q button. So Fujifilm is always moving these things around. In one way, it's good because they're trying to figure out what's the most efficient way of using, efficient placing of all these buttons. AEL button right over here, and then you have your display back, your play and your drive. So now number drive is a button now. It's not a drive mode dial. And your PSAM with 7 custom settings. And Billy was saying the advantage of this is that you can make these custom settings all different. Like this could, C1 can be, 4K 120, C2 could be 6.2K 30 frames, and then C3 can be for still. So you can change these up. You can quickly, the way that you shoot, you can set these all up, and that also affects the buttons and how the buttons work. And that's is one of the reasons why Billy was saying that, for instance, we're used to this being the focus mode select. Now this one here only has a button there, and it's still the focus mode selector, but it is a button because, again, if you are changing modes, so here, let's just press this button. By default, there you go, you can see that, right? It's a focus select here. So before, you could just immediately change it and you knew you were in that mode. Now you have to press the button and then decide which way to go. But that way, at least, if one of these modes, you want to make sure that you're always in continuous or manual focus, once you set that custom and you go into that mode, this doesn't say continuous, but it's actually in manual mode. So that's kind of why Fujifilm went with this. And Billy was saying that almost all these buttons, I think the only button that maybe isn't customizable is that light button. That's a set button, but anything else, this thing says view mode, but you can change this to whatever you want. So let's go into the menus here quickly, and we will go to the custom function button, and let's just see here. Function, here we go. So that's right there is the video, immediately video button there, right? And then you got ISO, and you got white balance, and then you have that blank FN button. So that's all these buttons across here. They're all customizable, right? So the record button, you can just change that to a bunch of different modes in here. And then so those 4, and then now it jumps to the front button over here. So that's customizable. This will be customizable, right? You'll see it jump over to the bottom left corner. And then look at that D-pad. 1, 2, 3, 4, all customizable. Swipe FN, I'm not a big fan of the 4, but you do have it there. I usually just have it blank. And then the AEL button, the AF on button, also customizable. And then even the Q button is customizable. And this button here, you can see that the view button is customizable. And then back to record. So you can see all these buttons, other than looks like the display back button and this light button, they're all customizable. You can see that. One caveat though is that the front and rear dials are not push in. Remember how you can have a second feature? I don't know why they got rid of it. If it's either for weather sealing, they're no longer push in. And so we are actually losing 2 custom functions. I'm used to having this back as a punch in and then a long press and use it to control aperture or ISO or something like that. So, but having these extra buttons here is helpful, but that is now gone. So now let's go into the internal features of this camera. So as I mentioned, the big difference between something like this and the X-T4 is that stacked backside illuminated sensor, which will give higher performance, increased throughput, and so 6.2K 30 frames per second at 3:2 aspect ratio. And so if you want to crop it down, then you're still getting a very high resolution, but it does come at 3:2. So it's using the entire sensor readout. If you have anamorphic lenses like the Surui 50mm anamorphic lens, so you can actually shoot the entire sensor not cropped and then de-squeeze, and you're getting an insane amount of resolution. And you can also do 4K 120 or 1080 240p. There is a 90-minute recording limit on this, but that's a big jump from a 30-minute recording time limit on the X-T4. And internal ProRes, which is a big deal for some, not a big deal for stills photographers, and even for myself, I have no need. Even right now, as I'm shooting this video, I'm 4K MP4, 100 megabits per second. So there's no way I'm going to be using internal ProRes other than just testing, but it can do 422 internal now. F-Log 2, up to 14 stops of dynamic range. range, as well as HDMI out Blackmagic RAW output, improved rolling shutter, 1/180th of a second for video and 1/150th of a second for stills. And so huge improvement because of that processor and sensor combination. CF Express card for some of those features, because there's no way that that an SD card could be recording. These are very expensive cards. So if you're a still shooter, you kind of lose a double slot SD, right? If you're a video shooter or a hybrid shooter, this is kind of a blessing that you do have this for those times that you do need those higher throughputs for video. But even for stills, as I mentioned, you're getting 15 frames per second, mechanical shutter, JPEG and RAW, endless shooting. As well as a JPEG RAW 30 frames per second, no crop, or JPEG plus RAW 40 frames per second electronic shutter with a 1.27 crop with full autofocus as well as tracking. So that'll be something fun to test. Fujifilm says there is an improved wireless connectivity as well as image transfer in here, as well as the upgrade to for the USB-C connection, moving to 3.1 Gen 1 Type 2 with 10 gigabits per second throughput, as well as there's a high quality webcam mode. So let's look at that. Let's just see. It took me a second to find where the webcam is. It is in that little squiggly line. It's called network USB setting, and there's quite a bit of settings in here. And you have to go into, look, there's even airplane mode. So I guess it has to do with smartphone, Bluetooth, and Wi-Fi. You can just go into airplane mode. But here, if you go to select connection settings, and then here you have universal setting, and it's showing you USB. If you're outputting to a card reader, tethering, shooting using USB, shooting fixed, and here you go, webcam. So USB webcam select, and it does say that the webcam can do 4K 30 or 1080 60p, which is awesome. And let's also check something else here in the autofocus mode. I think with the smart AI, let's just see where they have the, so you have the standard face detection. And Billy was saying that you can even switch between left and right eye in one of the custom settings. So if you have a model and they're kind of moving their head to the left, moving their head to the right, and you're trying to quickly pick between which eye, well, there's a custom function setting you can do that. But here, look at the subject detection setting. And so here we go. Look at this. Finally, Fujifilm. So if you do a lot of birding, and this is what I'm going to check out, bird, so it says animal, bird, automobile, motorcycle or bike, airplane or train. I wonder if you can have face detect on, this here, eye auto, and then turn this on and see what happens. Oh, I see. So you have to pick one or the other. See that? So if you have subject detect on, then it automatically turns off face detect. If you go face detect on, then it automatically turns up subject detect. So if you can set one of the custom FN buttons, so let's just go into the FN button here, button dial setting, function setting, and let's pick that extra button there that, this button right over here that's unlabeled. Let's just see, here we go, face detect on and off. So that's a good one. And here you go, right and left eye switching. So you can have that here. So if you're doing face detect, and you're pressing this, you can switch between the two eyes by using that button. So that's great. I will do another video doing I could spend 20 minutes just going through the menus. There's so much stuff in here. And so let's stop looking at this, and I will do a separate video. Which one of these are for you? I'll do a separate video comparing these and help you with making your buying choices. And again, that video will be sponsored by KEH because, they probably have all these cameras other than the new X-H2S, but as well, they'll have tons of lenses and different accessories. And so right now, let's go into the various accessories of the X-H2S. All right, first accessory, something we expected, vertical battery grip, VG-XH. And so let's just open this up here. And this is gonna be $400 US for this. And let's take a look at this. Let's look at the shape and design of this. Excellent, thank you. So if you guys remember, the XT4 had a really tall, long, very tall grip. This is wider and flatter. I like this. This probably uses, there you go. So it uses two NPW 235 batteries that are horizontal, right? It's flush. And here you can see it has the connectors, but as well as USB Type-C here, and that probably is for some kind of a throughput. And so let's just put this like this. In case you might lose this bottom cap, there should be a place, here we go, place that you put it. And here we go. I even have two MPW 235 batteries here. This is a case from Zaid Made. So we'll just put both these batteries in here. There you go. Slide this in, put that in, pop this on here. And here we go. So this is the X-H2S with the battery grip as well as all the basically mirrors and controls. This is another one here. A lot of rumors, a lot of talk about this one, the cooling fan, the fan 001. Since it's 001, maybe there's going to be a 002 perhaps in the future. So this is going to be $199 US. And according to Fujifilm, this is mostly for video. I don't really see a need for this for stills, but maybe there is if you are doing 40 frames per second bursts over and over and over again. You need to keep your camera cool. But this is it right here. And I mean, it looks really cool. And this is again pre-production, so the finishing is not final. But the way this works is you can see the two threads over there. You can see the two threads over there. And so what you do is, oh look, there's a connector here. So you gotta take that little thing out to expose that little thing there. Expose the connector. And then Fujifilm wisely has a little spot here where you could store that so you don't lose it. And there you go. And then you open this up here, and that's a connection. So now you know which way to orient this. And then you thread it on like this. And the controls for this is going to be in body. So let's just thread this on here, and look at that. Now because of this, obviously you can't close the LCD screen anymore. Right, so this is kind of a compromise option. You know, they could have put it in here, maybe had a separate one, but I guess this is the best way to dissipate heat is off the back plate here. And then the controls for the fan should be in here. So let's just kind of go into here. Cooling fan setting, here you go. See that cooling fan setting, auto, and then auto 2, prioritize camera temperature, prioritize low noise, and you can have it high, the fan operating, you can hear it too. Can you guys hear that? I'll take this off camera. That's on high right there. I can immediately feel a little bit of a fan there. And that's on high. And then you have low. So that low, I can't even hear it. And then just off. Or you can have it on auto. Again, auto 1 or auto 2, depending on what you are doing. And so that's their solution for those that complain about heat. And if you are doing video work and you're trying to keep it cool, I think this is kind of a neat option. Let me know down below if you guys think this is silly or not. I'm not a video guy, so I won't have a need for something like this. And as well, Fujifilm is saying that the finishing on this will be done a little bit better on the final production copy. But there you go. These are the main accessories that you have for the X-H2S. And so now let's move on to something else, and I'll make some space for this. And it is this lens here. Video-centric lens, XF18-120mm f4 LM PZWR. And so LM is linear motor, we know that. PZ is power zoom, and this is also weather seal. So let's unbox this. But I gotta make some space. Oh, nice. Clean table. Here we go. So here we have the new 18-120, and Fujifilm calls this a filmmaker's all-in-one lens. It's going to be $900 US or $1,150 Canadian. Sales embargo is September 2022, so it's quite a few months away, and works out to be a 27-183mm equivalent. And Fujifilm saying this is great for video. So let's just open this up and take a look. I was talking to Francis from Fujifilm, and he's been using it. Check out the official Fuji Guys video, but you get a nice lens pouch. I love opening these things up here, and great for storage and transportation. Let's open this up here. Oh, it's a little bit longer than I thought it would be. And here's the lens hood. So let's just here's the lens hood. Move that out of the way. And here we go. Look at this lens here. It is a lot lighter than I thought it would be. Fujinon spherical lens, Super EBC, 18-120 f4 LM PZWR, and there you go, 72mm here. So this is a power zoom lens, which means this zoom here It's all internal zoom, first of all, so you can see this lens doesn't get bigger or smaller, but let's just mount this here. You can see here, at least this lens here, it says made in Japan, which is kind of nice to see. Feels like it's a premium product. And for the X-H2S, I can't confirm it or not, but in here it looks like it's saying it's made in China. I'm not sure if you guys can read that right in that corner there, but at the same time, this is a pre-production model, so until I get a production model, I can't confirm where the X-H2S is being built, if it's being made in China or if it's being made in Japan. But and this right here is with the lens hood here, so this kind of gets to be a pretty chunky setup here if you have this with this lens here. And let's just feel the zoom here. It's really tight in the studio, so it's really hard to, so there you go. Wow. So I'm churning this and you guys can see this zooming here. It's a really weird feeling how it's zooming, but it's not actually, it's electric zoom, right? It's being moved by motors, just like how all Fujifilm lenses are electronic focus. And what you do get with this lens, you can see right here, is that you have either, you can custom set these. There's even like a little, a zoom or focus toggle here. And here, I guess you can select between zoom or focus. So let's just see what it says on screen here as I press this button here. So it says zoom, focus control. So now it says zoom, and now it's focus. Zoom and focus. And one of the advantages of a lens like this is that you can set the lever here. You can set the variable speed control, so you can program the zoom button at a constant speed, and you go from wide to tele anywhere from 1 to 100 seconds. So if you're doing some really not only pull focus, but you're actually kind of zooming in, zooming out, nice and smooth, you can never do it perfectly the way you want it. If you are in this here, so this is a zoom mode here. I'm gonna just take a look at this. You guys, you're just gonna have to take my word for it. Yeah, I could see it zooming really slow. Yeah, that is very cool. And it looks like also if you do a long press on this zoom and focus button, the lens zoom focus setting menus come up here. So you can pick non-linear to linear. I always say go linear, and then which way to rotate. And then here's the speed focus of the manual focus here. You can control that speed, and constant speed zoom. You can control the speed of the zoom. So it looks like you got a rating of, you got constant speed 3, 2, 1, slowest from 1, and then here, let's go to 8, the fastest. Let's see how fast this is going to be for zoom. Okay, let's just see this. So that's considered fast. I'm going to have to take this outside to test it, but Fujifilm also said that it's not built into the firmware yet, but they will have a seamless switching between continuous autofocus and manual focus during movie recording via a firmware update. And so this is a cool lens. And like I said, Francis from Fujifilm, he says he's been testing it. He did some skate videos with it, and it looked awesome. So I do look forward to testing this lens. And again, it's $900 US or $1,150 Canadian, and that's actually not a bad price for an f4 constant 18-120 lens. You just gotta get used to this power zoom. So if you do video, I think that's the main advantage of having a power zoom. Not great for vlogging because it sticks out so far. Again, I'm gonna have to give this a test to see how this works. Fujifilm, this lens is also WR with the fluorine coating on the lens. Fujifilm says there's minimum focus breathing on this, and also has a smooth and continuous iris control, great for video. And again, as mentioned, you can program the zoom button control, the kind of the speed in which it zooms as well as the speed in which it focuses. So pretty cool lens over here. Another lens I was going to do an unboxing, but I think I'm going to do a separate video because I think this video is getting way too long. Let's bring in this lens here. Bum, ba, da, bum. Look at this. The XF18-120mm f5.6 RLMOISWR. I'm gonna shoot a separate video, guys, because this lens is just too big. But I will be testing this out in the field. But yeah, maybe for this video, I'm gonna have to say. So there you go. This is my first look of the brand new Fujifilm X-H2S type right here, and as well as the brand new 18-120 video-centric lens right here. Now this is again just my unboxing and first impressions. I have not yet tested these cameras, so I will be testing it. And kind of like the main one I'm gonna be comparing against is the T4, but I know a lot of you will kind of have the X-H1, and so I will do another video, as I mentioned, which one of these cameras is right for you. So thank you so much, KH, for sponsoring this video. KH is the original camera re-commerce company serving the photographic community since 1979. They have over 60,000 items in stock, up to 40% below retail, 100% KH approved, appraised, graded, renewed, and resold. They even have a phone quote, or you could schedule a video chat with them for more accurate quotes on your gear. They have a 21-day return or exchange policy and a 180-day warranty. So that's great when you are buying used gear. So renewed with care, graded by experts, one of a kind, sustainable, and exchangeable. So I'll have affiliate links down below, and if I can get you guys any discounts or anything like that, I'll have that down below as well. It's a great opportunity if you are planning to upgrade to something new, to trade in your used gear, and as well if you are looking at this going, you know what, I may be happy with some of these previous models, and it is actually a good way of buying something from KH, because they do test all their equipment and they guarantee it up to 180 days warranty. And so thank you so much, KH, and thank you guys so much for watching. And again, I'll do another video, like I said, on that honking lens. So here we go. Let's one last look of this camera. What do you guys think? Oh, you know what I should do as well? Let's put that fan on here. One more time. Here we go. Look at that. And let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'll put this down here, and we're gonna close off with the click, all right? So thank you so much for watching, and happy shooting. Ooh, hear that? That's very fast.